They called it a vision. History called it a ghost. The Mirage 4000 never dropped a bomb in anger, never scrambled to intercept an enemy, never flew a combat sortie. Yet this twin-engine monster could have rewritten the balance of air power in the Middle East, challenged American dominance in the fighter export market, and given France a heavyweight champion to rival the F-15 Eagle. Instead, it became aviation's most expensive museum piece, a supersonic monument to ambition crushed by geopolitics. What went so catastrophically wrong? The story begins not with triumph, but with calculated risk. In September 1976, deep inside Dassault Aviation's design bureaus, engineers sketched plans for something France had never attempted: a heavy, long-range, twin-engine air superiority fighter. The French government wanted nothing to do with it. They were satisfied with the Mirage 2000, a nimble single-engine interceptor already in development. But Dassault's leadership saw opportunity where Paris saw redundancy. America had just unleashed the F-15 Eagle, a twin-engine beast with unmatched climb rate, beyond visual range missiles, and enough thrust to defy physics. Vietnam had taught brutal lessons about dogfighting, and the Eagle was the Pentagon's answer: air supremacy personified in titanium and Pratt & Whitney turbofans. Dassault studied the Eagle with obsessive intensity. They knew that if France couldn't sell a heavyweight competitor, oil-rich Middle Eastern kingdoms would buy American, forever. So Dassault gambled their own money. No government contract, no guaranteed orders. Just corporate funds poured into composite materials, fly-by-wire systems, and twin Snecma M53 afterburning turbojets. The project was audacious even by French standards, a nation famous for building delta wing fighters with swagger and style. The Mirage family, from the Mirage 3 to the Mirage F1, had carved out a reputation for agility, elegance, and export success. But they were all lightweight, short-range interceptors. The Mirage 4000 would be something entirely different. A muscular, long-legged fighter bomber capable of penetrating enemy airspace and returning home with fuel to spare. By December 1977, the prototype stood in Dassault's hangar. Designation: 01FZWRM. It was massive compared to its Mirage siblings, 61 feet long, 12-meter wingspan, and a thrust-to-weight ratio exceeding 1.1. The twin M53 engines could push it past Mach 2.3, while internal fuel capacity tripled that of the Mirage 2000. Carbon composite tail sections doubled as fuel tanks. The bubble canopy offered 360-degree visibility. 11 external hardpoints could carry 18,000 pounds of ordnance, from precision-guided bombs to magic air-to-air missiles to Exocet anti-ship weapons. It looked like ambition sculpted into metal. Then the engines roared, and history blinked. March 9th, 1979, Istres Air Base, southern France. Test pilot Jean-Marie Saget climbed into the cockpit as dawn broke over the Mediterranean. Saget was no stranger to pushing experimental aircraft. He'd tested prototypes that never saw production, machines that lived only in logbooks and fading photographs. But the Mirage 4000 felt different. Its twin M53s idled with a deeper, angrier growl than the single-engine Mirages he'd flown. The control stick responded to fly-by-wire electronics, not cables. Saget released the brakes. The runway blurred. At rotation speed, he pulled back, and Aileron clawed into French airspace. Within minutes, it hit Mach 1.2 on its maiden flight. No drama, no emergency, just raw, effortless power. He landed knowing he'd just flown something exceptional. The second flight pushed Mach 1.6. The sixth flight, on April 11th, reached Mach 2.04 and sustained angles of attack up to 25 degrees during spin analysis. Engineers watched the telemetry in disbelief. This wasn't incremental progress. This was a quantum leap. The Mirage 4000 flew like it was daring physics to object, but Jean-Marie Saget's cockpit couldn't override politics, and politics was already destroying the dream. 6 weeks before that first flight, on January 16, 1979, the Shah of Iran fled his country. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the monarch who'd bankrolled French defense projects, ordered F-14 Tomcats by the squadron and expressed interest in the Mirage 4000, was overthrown by Ayatollah Khomeini's Islamic Revolution. Iran, one of Dassault's wealthiest potential customers, vanished overnight. The timing was surgical in its cruelty. Saudi Arabia remained. Prince Sultan bin Abdulaziz, the Saudi defense minister, had even helped fund the Mirage 4000's development. By 1980, he publicly stated the kingdom was considering acquisition. Dassault's engineers watched the desert kingdom with desperate hope. If the Saudis ordered, France's defense committee had signaled it would follow with 50 aircraft to replace the aging Mirage the 4 nuclear strike bombers. That would mean production lines, export momentum, and vindication of Dassault's private gamble. Then Ronald Reagan won the 1980 US presidential election. Reagan reversed Jimmy Carter's restrictions on advanced fighter exports to Saudi Arabia. Carter had sold F-15s to the Saudis in 1978, but with crippling limitations. No bomb racks, no long-range missiles, no capabilities that might threaten Israel. The Saudis fumed. They'd bought castrated eagles while needing real teeth. Reagan changed the rules. By March 1981, his administration announced it would sell enhanced F-15s with conformal fuel tanks, Sidewinder missiles, and full strike capabilities. The first upgraded Eagles would arrive in Riyadh by January 1982. Dassault's window slammed shut. Why buy an unproven French prototype when America would sell the proven Eagle? With Pentagon support, NATO compatibility, and Washington's diplomatic weight behind it? The Saudis didn't even respond to Dassault's overtures. They moved on. The Mirage 4000 kept flying, demonstration after demonstration. It appeared at the Paris Air Show in June 1979, gleaming white with red and blue flashes, performing aerobatic maneuvers that left spectators breathless. By late 1980, it had logged 100 flight hours. In 1982, it flew at Farnborough in full interceptor and strike configurations, bristling with missiles and laser-guided bombs. But the crowds that applauded weren't writing checks. French military planners ran the numbers. The Mirage 4000 was magnificent, and magnificently expensive. Each airframe would cost significantly more than a Mirage 2000. France's defense budget couldn't justify both programs when the lighter, cheaper Mirage 2000 was already fulfilling most requirements. The heavy fighter role, niche, the export market, captured by American F-15s and F-16s. Dassault threw one final Hail Mary. In 1986, they repainted Aero 1 in desert camouflage, US tan and pale stone over light blue, and reactivated demonstrations aimed at Middle Eastern buyers. The aircraft appeared at Paris again in 1987, now renamed simply Mirage 4000 instead of Super Mirage 4000. No one bought. Saudi Arabia signed a massive deal for British Aerospace Panavia Tornadoes instead. On January 8, 1988, Jean-Marie Saget's successors flew the Mirage 4000 for the 336th and final time. The engines shut down, the canopy sealed. Silence replaced the afterburner's roar, but the ghost didn't vanish. Dassault repurposed Aero 1 as a chaseplane and testbed for the Rafale program. Engineers studied how its canard delta configuration behaved in turbulence, lessons directly applied to the Rafale's design. The carbon composite structures, fly-by-wire systems, and digital flight controls pioneered on the 4000 migrated into France's next-generation multi-role fighter. The Rafale would eventually succeed where the Mirage 4000 failed, entering French Air Force service, winning export orders, and becoming one of Europe's premier combat aircraft. Yet the Rafale was medium weight, not heavy. France abandoned the heavyweight fighter concept entirely. In November 1992, Aero 1 was towed to the Musée de l'Air et de l'Espace outside Paris. It sits there still, registration FZWRM visible on the fuselage, a permanent exhibit frozen mid-stride toward a future it never reached. Visitors walk past, unaware of the alternate history it represents. What if Iran's Shah had survived? The Mirage 4000 would have formed the backbone of an elite Iranian fighter wing, patrolling the Persian Gulf with French missiles and Dassault pride. What if Reagan hadn't lifted F-15 export restrictions? Saudi Arabia might have ordered 50 Mirage 4000's, triggering French military orders and making Dassault a heavyweight fighter powerhouse. What if geopolitics had zigged instead of zagged? We'll never know. The Mirage 4000 remains a singular artifact, one prototype, 336 flights, 0 combat missions. It was faster than the F-15 at high altitude, carried more internal fuel than any contemporary European fighter, and introduced composite materials that became industry standard. Test data proved it could sustain Mach 2 longer than American or Soviet rivals. Yet it sits in a museum, while eagles still patrol Middle Eastern skies. The lesson isn't about engineering. The Mirage 4000 was a technical masterpiece, equal or superior to its American counterpart in multiple performance metrics. The lesson is about timing, markets, and the invisible hand of geopolitics choking even the most brilliant visions. Dassault built the right aircraft at the wrong moment in history. The Cold War arms market was shifting. American dominance in fighter exports was solidifying through aggressive Reagan-era diplomacy and package deals that tied aircraft sales to broader strategic partnerships. France could offer superb engineering, but Washington could offer regional security guarantees. Middle Eastern kingdoms bought what came with American protection. The Mirage 4000's delta wing still catches sunlight outside Paris. Its twin-engine nozzles, once capable of hurling 30,000 pounds of thrust into the stratosphere, are silent and cold. Visitors snap photos. Aviation enthusiasts study the canards, the intake design, the composite tail. Few ask why only one was built. The answer is written in oil, revolution, and export policy, forces no test pilot could outmaneuver. Jean-Marie Saget flew the first flight. He couldn't fly the last. That was 8 years later, piloted by someone else, for a program already dead. But in March 1979, when he lifted off from Istres and felt the Mirage 4000 punch through Mach 1.2, he was riding a supersonic vision. It just happened to be a vision the world refused to buy. France learned. The Rafale program emphasized affordability, modularity, and versatility over raw size and range. It succeeded commercially where the Mirage 4000 failed. But something was lost in that pragmatic pivot. The audacity of building a heavyweight champion purely on corporate faith, without government backing, betting everything on export sales that never materialized. Dassault doesn't gamble like that anymore. The Mirage 4000 stands as the last privately funded French fighter prototype, a supersonic bet that crapped out. Its DNA lives in the Rafale, its technology scattered across modern French aerospace. But the aircraft itself? Frozen in 1988, forever waiting for a war it would never fight. Titanium and carbon fiber don't age. The Mirage 4000 looks flight-ready even now, 3 decades after its engines last spooled. You could almost imagine Jean-Marie Saget climbing back into the cockpit, firewall throttles to max, and tearing back into the sky. Almost. Because the one thing a museum can't preserve is possibility. And the Mirage 4000 was pure, concentrated possibility killed by circumstance. Revolutionary Iran buried one future. Reagan's export policies buried another. British tornadoes buried the rest. What remains is a warning. Even the best machine fails without customers. And even the boldest vision dies without timing. The Mirage 4000 was ahead of its time. Then time moved past it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story of aviation ambition meeting brutal reality.